Hi, I am DanaKWhite.com. I'm going to check the comments to make sure that you can hear me. I love it when y'all let me know that you can hear me because we've had some interesting experiences in the past. So I am Dana K. White. I am the author of several books, which you can see up there, including Decluttering at the Speed of Life, Organizing for the Rest of Us, and How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind. And I'm here to answer questions, primarily questions that have been submitted ahead of time at askdanakWhite.com. You can go there anytime to submit a question. They're not real-time answers, but they give me things that I answer during these live sessions. At the end, if we have time, I will take some questions from those of you who are watching live. So thanks for being here. Okay, did want to remind you that if you would like to support the show or whatever, and as one of the perks of that, you do get to join a community of people who talk about this stuff from this perspective, from it being a legitimate struggle, and use the language that we use here as far as like no mess decluttering process, progress and only progress, you know, that kind of thing. If you want to find out more about that, go to patreon.com/aslobcomesclean. Okay, so I went through my questions and I did try to put kind of a summary of some of them onto little doolally, you know, things right there so that you can kind of read. I hope that will make it a little bit easier to follow for some of you. But here we go. Let's go with the first question. So I will read the whole thing because the whole thing doesn't usually fit on there. Earlier in your journey, you talked about having certain days for cleaning tasks, etc. Do you still use those scheduled weekly or monthly, quarterly tasks? Would you be able to share what those are and how you'd suggest we get there? I know it's all about the daily habits and decluttering, but would love to know your current take on less frequent urgent tasks that do have to get done. Okay, so what this person is talking about is my strategy for getting the big stuff done. Okay, so like it's all about the daily stuff, right? It's about the dishes and the doing 5-minute pickups and all that kind of stuff. That is what truly changes your home. And yet the big cleaning tasks have to be done, right? Like cleaning the bathroom, mopping the floors, stuff that doesn't need to be done every day, but needs to be done consistently. I wrote about this a lot on the blog, but also in How to Manage. Where's How to Manage? I always try to give you, yeah, there it is, right there. How to Manage. That one, I talked through this. So what I did was I assigned a cleaning task to a day of the week, okay? Now, people feel differently about this and like, oh, that feels like it would hem me in. It was not to, it still wasn't a schedule to me. The reason this worked for my brain so well was that I am generally aware, generally aware of the day of the week that it is. Like usually I know what day of the week it is. And so the day of the week coming around and being like, oh, it's Tuesday. Oh, it's bathroom day, reminded me to clean the bathrooms, because otherwise with my time passage awareness disorder, which many of you tell me is a real thing, but I made up time passage awareness disorder. I call it TPAD. With that, I could go a very long time feeling like I just cleaned the bathroom. And then suddenly realizing as it was like somebody's coming over tomorrow that it was a huge, disgusting mess because in fact, it had been a very long time since I cleaned the bathroom. So I had to have some way that was a consistent reminder for me, oh, I need to clean the bathroom. That doesn't mean that every single Tuesday I got the bathroom clean because life happens and you have some reason why you're out of the house all day on Tuesday. But it would be something that would, the next Tuesday would come around and it would be like, oh, Tuesday, bathrooms. Oh, wow. I was out last Tuesday and the Tuesday before, oh, it's been like, so it helped my time passage awareness disorder for me to do that. So putting it on the calendar, it was not a schedule, but it was a recurring reminder to me that this is the day to do that. Okay. And then as things came up in my schedule and I needed to put something on the calendar, I was like, well, if I'm going to put this on the calendar, that's going to mean, you know, that I can't do this thing that is a Tuesday thing that I need to be doing if I want my house to be under control. Now, this has changed for me. I've talked about this before. I always feel a little bit funny talking about it because if you're brand new here, you might be like, what? Oh my word. She talks and writes about cleaning and she has someone who comes in and clean. Absolutely. And I highly recommend it if you can afford it. I did this for 7 years, meaning talking about getting my house under control, wasn't teaching really. I did not hire someone to clean until it was literally the month before my first book came out. So I had been figuring it out and doing it in my house for 7 years. So for 7 years, I used the assign a day, of the week to that, to a different cleaning task to remind me, to keep me somewhat basically on track for those things to happen. So it was a way to remind myself. And then it was a month before my first book came out. I remember because I was out and I was filming videos for that book and I had a kid's birthday party that weekend. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's too much going on. I'm going to hire somebody to do this. And so that was when I first started that. I love it. Like I love it. And I love it. Doesn't necessarily, well, it definitely is not a magic fix. I do want to make sure I always say that it's not magical. It makes me do more because I have to have every single thing picked up in my entire house every other week at a certain time. Okay. So that's really, really helpful for me to keep things under control, that when this day comes around every 2 weeks, it forces me to actually have every single thing picked up. Where before, I would clean the bathrooms, but I could ignore everything else, so anyway, whatever your situation is whatever your situation is. And that's what you need to do. But this question asking specifically, how do you do this? Well, she asked, do you still use those scheduled weekly or monthly or quarterly, which I never did that, tasks? And I didn't view that as a schedule. Okay. I viewed it as a natural, reoccurring reminder to help me combat my TPAD. Okay. And to give a thing, because the other thing too is when I was just completely overwhelmed in my home, it was like, there's so much to do. And then I felt overwhelmed and then it was hard to get started. Where if I had a task assigned to a certain day of the week, then it was like, okay, it's Tuesday. There's so much, it's bathroom day. Okay, I'm going to focus on the bathrooms. That gives me the thing to focus on the bathrooms because I know that was what was assigned for that day. So it was very helpful for me in that way. As far as monthly and quarterly tasks, I've really never had a system for that. I mean, I don't, I know there are a lot of people who have it like on checklists and stuff, and you can find lots of great stuff like that on the internet. That kind of stuff overwhelms me and also just makes me go, blah, 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 I can't do this. So it's basically like, as I have those main things done that have to be done consistently, then when I have a day where I'm like, okay, I have some time, because this is how I roll. I have some time, I can work on my house. Well, the dishes are done. The cleaning tasks are done. Okay. All right. I am going to tackle some of these things that need to be done on it. So I'm not great. I don't give advice on that because that's not really something I'm great at, but that's basically how I roll. Okay. Let's see. Next one. Any suggestion for when your containers aren't full, but you still feel like you have more stuff than your clutter threshold? I'm fortunate to not be in an overwhelmed space, but would still like to simplify further. What is the next way to let go of stuff when you can't use the container concept anymore? This is so great that you're in this spot. It's so great that you understand the container concept. It's so great that you understand the clutter threshold. You are in the right place. And the word I want you to focus on that you said is simplify further. Okay. So you know that you're still over your clutter threshold. Clutter threshold, for those of you who are new, is the point at which you personally have more stuff in your house than you personally can easily keep under control. It's different for everybody. Okay. It's accepting how you are and what you personally can handle. All right. So the only way to find your clutter threshold is to declutter. If you feel like your house is overwhelming to you, if it's consistently out of control, declutter. Declutter some more until you hit this point where you realize, oh, wait a minute. I think I'm under my clutter threshold because I can do this. I can handle this. And then as more stuff is coming in your house and you realize, oh, it's starting to feel out of, oh, I need to declutter. Okay. It's that thing that you're going for is getting this. So you know that you have the space for things, but you still feel like you're over your clutter threshold. Simplify by decluttering. Declutter more, declutter more, declutter more until you hit that point. And it's hard because it's very ambiguous. And this is the reason why it's so helpful to have both the container concept to use as a guide and your clutter threshold. So when you're first starting out, the container concept is the thing to understand. That is the thing that will help you start to, and you know this, the person asking the question, but that is the thing that helps you start to see your home differently, to see your stuff differently, to see that it's not about how I feel about my stuff. It's about what actually do I have the space for so that things can have a home. All right. So it gives you something very concrete to be your goal and your guiding principle as you start decluttering. As you continue decluttering, I'm assuming that you have experienced how much easier it is to keep your home under control. Okay. As you have decluttered, you're like, this is getting easier and it's getting easier. And now you want to simplify further. You want to get under your clutter threshold, where it's super easy for you to keep it under control. So now you're aiming toward your clutter threshold. Okay. So as long as it still doesn't feel simple, keep decluttering, and you will hit that clutter threshold. I think it's important to understand clutter threshold from the beginning, but no, you're not going to reach that until well after you've implemented the container concept on everything. Okay. But the reason it's important to understand that from the beginning is it really gives you a different perspective on your stuff, to know that it's not about me trying to be different. It's about me accepting how I roll and what I need and saying, you know what? I don't need to look at someone else's house and say, I want my house to be just like theirs. I just need to say, okay, what can I handle? What can I not handle? And container concept gives me a very concrete way to start out and do that. And then you continue with the clutter threshold. Okay. All right. Next. Just so you know, I often answer questions in my podcast as well. You can go to aslobcomesclean.com/podcasts. I don't know if I have a little thing for that or not. I don't. Anyway, but you can go there if you would like to listen to some other questions being answered. So I know like last week and then this week also, it was like one question that was a 30-minute, 45-minute answer on its own. And so that's what I dove deep into those. Let's see. Okay, this is a good question. I experienced decluttering momentum and got a lot done. Now I'm feeling stuck after accomplishing so much, but I feel like this journey isn't over. I can't think of a specific place in my home that I've not decluttered. So what's next? Do I start over? You can do whatever you want to do. Like, you've experienced decluttering momentum, so you know the power of that. You got a lot done, but kind of like in the last question where we talked about, but you still feel like there's more to do. And that feeling is probably because you're still over your clutter threshold. So just keep decluttering. But because you've done, you've gone through the house and you need to do, I can't think of a specific place, start back in the most visible area. And maybe that's just going to be a quick recheck of things. Re-decluttering is so incredibly powerful, y'all. Like going back over a space that you went over before, you're going to have such a different perspective than you did the first time when you went through that space. Because the first time you went through that space, and this was all new to you, and you were just getting started and you were learning about decluttering, you are a different person now than the first time you went through that. So go back to your prioritize by visibility again, start again in that space. And I think you're going to be surprised that maybe this time you're just naturally a little more ruthless. Get a little more ruthless, get stuff out of there, which is going to make you feel, it's going to get you to your clutter threshold sooner. It's going to make you feel so much more in control of your home. So work on, going back through using the visibility rule. Because so many times what happens is the first time you go through a space, you are, going with the concrete thing of the container concept, and you're following. Now your perspective of stuff has changed, and some of the stuff that last time you thought, well, I have to keep this, of course it deserves space in the container, and now it's been 6 months or a year, and you go back to that space and you're like, I haven't even thought about that thing in the 6 months or a year since then. That can totally go. So where maybe before you had some sort of emotional attachment to it that made it feel like it had to stay and it deserves space here, now you're in a different place now, and you think of this thing differently because of what you went through last time, and it's easy to let it go now. Okay. And so it's going to be easier. So just go back, prioritize by visibility. That's always my rules. I get started that way because I have to have a place to start. It's like you said, I don't have a specific place. Okay, well then go with the visibility rule and just keep going through. And I think you're going to be really pleased and excited about how much easier it is. Okay. Next question. How to stop all heck breaking loose when going through the process of packing to go away, unpacking when you get home. No matter how tidy, this is more question that I wasn't able to fit over here for y'all. No matter how tidy I try to get before I start, packing always involves getting stuff out that you know you might need. And where'd you put it all while you're collecting it? And then there's all the lists, and the coming home is worse because you probably left a mess, and then you bring home a double mess. Chronic illness. She says, if I try to instantly put everything away, I end up more tired than before I went for a break. I'm in England, waves, and traveling by car, food allergies, so you have to travel with kitchen stuff too. Okay. So I get it. Like packing, I still can sometimes do this. When I'm trying to be really careful about this, I just remind myself of the beauty. The suitcase is the container. Now, you said that you're traveling by car. For me, that makes it harder because I'm like, oh, I might as well take this and this and this and this. And then when I get to the place where I'm going, I'm like, well, I don't not only have a suitcase, I've also got all these hanging clothes that, it just turns into a hassle. So I'm like, okay, if I will just go with the container concept and say, okay, I'm going to go single item by single item. Maybe that means giving yourself a little more time in the actual process of getting packed and saying, I'm going to, go single item by single item into this, space, yes, container of the suitcase. And then as I put things in there, as I come in and it's already full, I'm going to need to one in, one out, and just embrace this, because ultimately that makes it easier down the line that you've got a smaller item to lug through all of this process of actually traveling. And then when you get home, it's less of a thing where when I don't think of it that way and I just start collecting a ton of stuff and laying it all over the bed or the couch and then putting it in the actual bag, that's where I end up with this huge mess that then is overwhelming to you when you get back home. Okay. So I think the more I have traveled, the more I'm like, I don't want to lug stuff, and so like, remind yourself that part of the reason why this is exhausting is the amount of stuff. So say, okay, I'm going to minimize and minimize a bit. If I'm a minimalist anywhere, which y'all know I'm not, but if I'm a minimalist anywhere, it's when I'm traveling. I try my best to go. Now, I did go one time on a 2-week trip and did not bring enough stuff. And then I kind of learned, okay, Dana, that was a little too extreme on the minimalism front there for traveling. Anyway, I just would really embrace the container concept of the suitcase and say, okay, I am going to take it there now. I'm not going to have in between spots. I'm going to take it there now to the suitcase. And if I need something, I'm going to put it in there, which is going to make you question. I mean, it's going to make you rethink, right? You're like, is this worth me actually taking there? Is this something I'm actually going to take? And decide before you actually do it, because you're not going to give yourself that in between space. But I know it can be really, really hard. Okay, those are the only ones I had. Look at me in 19 minutes. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take some questions from the comments if y'all would like to. Let's see. Okay, so Edifice is asking, Sorry, I was reading it first. Is your Facebook group still active? My application for membership has been pending for a week, and I am wondering if the group is closed or you do not accept new members anymore. Okay, so I do have a Facebook group, don't I? I'm sorry. I do have a Facebook group. It is open for new members. I know that my assistant who lets people into that group was out of town with me while I was recording my my training course for decluttering coaches. Did y'all know that I have that? Yeah, let me go ahead and put that on there real quick. If you were interested in finding out more when I launch my training and certification for decluttering coaches, go to aslobcomesclean.com/certification and make sure you're on the email list. Not like I won't tell y'all here too, but you know what I mean, that you want to be on there to make sure you get it. But so I do have that. I don't know where it went. Anyway, so I do have a group there. That one is not as active. Okay. But if you are interested in being a patron of the show, that's the group where it's like hopping all the time. And it feels like I'm being like, but you have to pay to be a patron. And then that perk, you're not actually paying to be in the group, but the only people who are patrons are in the group anyway. But it means everybody in there is super invested and committed and like on board with all of this. So anyway, if you want to know about that, you go to Patreon. Where am I? Patreon.com/aslobcomesclean. And that has your, that will be the place that will get you in to do that. But the other group, which is a great group, it's just not anywhere near as, passionate and active. That one, we are bringing new people in. It's just been a really busy week or so. So we're behind on getting that in. There's also a couple, sometimes people will ask to join like launch team groups from past books. And I guess I need to just shut those groups down because those are not active anymore. All right. Oh, I was going to go to comments. That's where I am. All right. Here we go. My husband is a combat veteran and I would like to store better his military gear, but he has severe PTSD. What would you suggest I do? Okay, so I had not read this before I read it out loud to y'all. I don't feel qualified to answer this. I think that it might be something really good to talk to his either a therapist or his people who are there to be support in this PTSD, just to help in that, because I think that's a tough question. Like, you're in a difficult situation here and you are trying to be very sensitive to his needs, and that's really, really important for you to do. So I would talk to somebody who, if you don't feel like you can talk to him about it, I would talk to somebody who is specifically there and knows the in and outs of what it is that he might need, and they can help you with that. But what I will say on this is, because, and I'm not saying this is your situation, I'm just saying this tends to be what happens when I dive deeper into these things, is a lot of times, because you do have a very difficult item that you don't know what to do with, and there is not a great and simple solution for it, that it can be easy to fixate on that at the expense of going ahead and decluttering other things that are not emotional or triggering or anything like that. So make sure that even as you are dealing with this stuff, even as you're facing this challenge, that you go ahead and start in your entryway and do the decluttering there, so that, and declutter neutral stuff and your own personal stuff, and work on that, because you can make a lot of progress before you ever get to the point where you have to make a decision, because that's the last thing that needs to have a decision made about it. But so many times when we want to declutter, our brains go straight to the most difficult and daunting and truly challenging situation. And then that stops us from doing anything, so just go back and work on that. And I don't know if that's your situation or not, but there you go. Let's see. I don't like to dust. Any tips? I keep thinking I need to declutter more, but I'm really not wanting to let things go, but it would make dusting easier. It's about, if you don't like to dust, decluttering is the best way to avoid as much, to make dusting easier. and to not have as many things to get dust on it. I mean, really, if the shelf doesn't exist, the shelf doesn't have to be dusted. Fewer flat surfaces mean less to dust. So, I mean that, yeah, I mean, like, and the other thing too is just to make it as easy as you possibly can. Halfway dusting, badly dusting, just not moving every little thing, but just kind of doing a little bit here and there can make a huge visible impact. The huge visible impact often makes you feel less overwhelmed, and feeling less overwhelmed makes you more willing to do the thing. So, but yeah, I mean, declutter with the goal of not having as much stuff to dust would be great. What's the saying you've used regarding letting things go because of the money spent on them? Something about you're no richer or poorer for letting them go now that you've spent that money already. I don't think that's me. That doesn't ring in my head as something that I've said a lot as far as a saying. What I do say on that is the way I look at money, and the money that I might either that I have spent on something or that I might have to spend to replace something if I declutter it now and then need it in the future, is I say to myself, if someone said, "Hey, Dana, would you pay $20 for this space to be under control and easily usable?" What would you say? And if I would be like, I would totally pay somebody $20. I'd pay somebody $100 if this space was just, decluttered and better. Then I use that as a way to say, okay, I would be willing to pay $20 or $100 for this space to be under control and better. So if I have to replace this item and spend $20 to replace it in the future, then that's that money that I would have paid. But in reality, the vast majority of the time, I never have to pay that money because I never end up needing to replace it. But even if I do, that money will be well spent for me to have had this space be usable and decluttered between now and this hypothetical time in the future. That's how I look at it. But I think maybe it's somebody else's quote. Okay. I shouldn't have clicked on this one because no, I can't. No, timing. Yes, I will tell you on timing. Here's how it's going to work. I have not launched it yet. It is my plan, which it's like a ton of work, tons of work left to do. My plan is to launch on December 1st. And my goal is that if I launch on December 1st and people go through the course, so the way it's going to work is there's a course. Okay. It's a training course. Anybody can use it. You are welcome to go out and coach people, but I am going to have a site where I have listed the people who have chosen to be certified, which is more of an investment. Like, you've decided I am committing to, if someone wants me to use these principles, I will use it in their home. But anyway, it's a higher commitment level, and higher price as well. But you can, so there'll be a training that you can go through. And then after you finish the training, as you and actually complete it, then you can be certified, which means you'd be listed on my site. Not A Slob Comes Clean. It's a separate new site that will be linked from A Slob Comes Clean. But, and you, what was the other stuff that you get from that? You get listed on the site. You can teach. We will have a course. Yeah, like a workshop in a box where you can then teach the content, as a certified coach, to other people. And there's other, and then you'll have ongoing trainings. I'll do a monthly training for the people who are certified. And then it will also be a group for other certified coaches for you to troubleshoot and brainstorm and stuff together with that. So my reason why I want to launch December 1st is that I figure people can go through the course itself, in a couple of weeks. And then if they decide they want to be certified, they could be certified, and I could have actual coaches to send people to when the big decluttering rush hits, in early January or late December, early January, when people go decluttering crazy, then I'll be able to be like, hey, if you need a coach, here they are on the site. So anyway, I hope that gave any kind of information on that. But as far as the price, you can send me an email. I'm not quite ready to say the price out loud, but it is a certification thing. So it's, more expensive than other things I've done, but I think I've been looking at a lot of similar things. I think it's extremely reasonable, and y'all know I'm cheap. So, okay. My husband finally was decluttering his childhood bedroom. He asked for my help, which made me so excited. Yay. However, seeing all those full black trash bags gave me anxiety, so I had to walk away. Tips. Yes. My number one tip would be, if this is giving you anxiety, fill a trash bag and get it out into the trash can or wherever trash bags go, one by one. If it's giving you anxiety to see a huge amount of them, then go ahead and let's try to get those out so that you're not quite registering how many trash bags there are. But I will also tell you, I bet you there's a lot of people watching this video who are like super jealous of you right now, because so and you know this, like, Rick, I can tell you know this from your question. Like, it's something to be super excited about, that this is happening and it's not just coming back into your house, which would be the key. So embrace that, but also, physically get those bags out of there so that you're not seeing them all at once, if that's hard for you. Okay. Let's see. Y'all are giving some great advice to each other. I love it. Okay. I live in a 6-people, 4-generation home. There is so much that none of us use, but everyone has a scarcity mindset and won't let me declutter household stuff. How would you approach nudging them? Work on your own stuff first. I know it's hard, and it is entirely possible. Jen, it's entirely possible that you literally have decluttered every last thing of your own, and that is fine. And that's great. And then it presents its own challenge. But I will say, just go back to your own stuff, go back to that. Try to find what's neutral. Try to find what other people consider to be your type of thing. And really start in visible areas. Like, start in the entryway. Okay. Start in the most visible area of the house. And where would you look for this first? And then take it there now and start. Here's the thing. Even though when you're just asking about what are we going to do with this, or, can we get rid of this, it can be difficult. But when you start in the visible area and you say, okay, well, the purpose of this space is to let people inside the house, talk to the kids selling Girl Scout cookies or whatever, like, I'm going to have this door open. I'm not going to let her in the house because I'm not weird. You know what I mean? Anyway, but so, like, you're starting in the visible area and you're like decluttering for the purpose of that space. What's the function of this space? Okay. Like, it's not supposed to be storage. And so it's like, okay, I'm not saying that this stuff needs to leave the house. I am saying, where would we look for it first? And then I'm going to take it there. Oh, there's no space for it there. So, what can we get out of here so that there's room for this? And I get it. There's tons of dynamics. If there's 4 generations in one home, oh my word, the dynamics are intense, right? Like, I get that. And so I know it's easier said than done, but like, just try to embrace that container concept of, okay, this is the purpose of this space. So it's not for things to be stored. Where would we look for this first? There's no room there. So what can go in order to make room? And so, like, even though it feels like you want to just throw stuff away, going through that process, because it's super logical, is, even though it feels slow, it's going to start to change how they view things. So you're never saying this stuff needs to go. You're saying, okay, if it's really important, then it has to have a place to be. Obviously, the entryway is not the place to be. So, or it could be the living room or the bedrooms or whatever. But, taking it there and then letting that space dictate and be the bad guy. It's like, man, I know, right? I wish we had more space too. Oh, man. But we don't. So yeah, what can go in order to, oh, there's nothing that we can get. Oh, well, then I guess we can't keep this. Oh, we have to keep, okay, well, then what can, man, I wish we had more space, but there's just no more space here. So working through that process, it's not fun and it's not easy, but it does work because it lets the space dictate and the space be the bad guy. So, What do you do extra to be certified? So basically you just complete the training course. So there's assessments in there. I want to know when someone is certified that they really do get it. Okay. For those of you who've read every book and watched every video and listened to every podcast, I mean, you're going to fly through that training course as it is. I mean, somebody could buy the training course though, go through it, just watch the videos they want to watch, learn a little bit, and not complete the assessments that show that they know. I mean, I'm not going to ask you to like write a research paper. Like that's not what you're being asked to do. It's very simple, but it is like proving that you understand and you've been through things. So the people who are certified do have to have actually completed the training course. Okay. Because I'm not just going to be like, oh, here people bought this course and so now they're certified. No, they have to actually have learned this stuff so that I can, in good conscience, say the people listed on this site truly do understand the client, who relates to me, and the client who wants to use my method. I can say, yes, these people really have. So it's not like you have to do extra things to be certified. You do have to have completed the training. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right. Hello, Dana. I'm from Longview, Washington. Hi. I'm currently going through my garage and decluttering, which will take a while, then going through the rest of the house next. Is there more of this? And I can't see it. Hold on. Well, I didn't know. I've emptied 12 totes so far. Awesome. Okay. You're just like, we're celebrating with you. That 12 totes, that is amazing. I am so proud of you. Like, I am so incredibly proud of you. That's amazing. Okay. I thought it was a question. That was the thing at first, but now we're just going to all celebrate because that's cool. Let's see. Question. How would you go about asking for physical help with decluttering and cleaning if you had chronic illness and are pretty darn shy, embarrassed about the state of things? I get it. I do. I get it. And it sometimes can feel difficult to find a safe person, right? You know what I might do? This is off the top of my head, y'all. Okay. I might be like, I might share one of my videos, or, where it talks about clutter threshold, or it talks about the container that, the main video when you first go on my YouTube channel is the container concept. Maybe share that and just see what kinds of reactions you get from people. Just to see, are there people who say, oh my goodness, I follow her too, blah, blah, blah. Maybe if you've read one of my books that really resonated with you, maybe share that. And I'm talking about like social media or whatever, just in conversation, and see, do you know some other people who, know this? And that's honestly the reason why I'm launching the coaching thing, because I get this question all the time. I need help. I'm embarrassed. And I know, you may be talking about like asking a personal friend to help you as opposed to that, but I do. I want there to be people who are able to help people who get it. I want to be able to tell you, listen, these coaches get it. Okay. Had an aha moment. I have so many books and think of their value, but mostly paperbacks, which are probably worth $1, but I would pay $50 to be able to use that closet. That makes me want to cry. I'm so excited for you. That's a huge moment. Yes. Here we go. So somebody had the quote. It sounds like Cass from Clutterbug. She says, you're no richer if you keep this item, and you'll be no poorer if you throw it out. That's a great quote. Go Cass. We love Cass, right? Okay. Do you need to remember yourself to close the cabinet doors, or do you have implemented closing them since back then? Asking for my 11-year-old son. I relate to your 11-year-old son in this situation much more than the mother who's asking, right? Yeah, it's a huge struggle for me. There's a video that will come out, I don't know when, that I recorded this summer, y'all, and my kitchen looked amazing. And halfway through, I suddenly noticed in the camera that like one of my cabinet doors was just like way open in the back. So what I do is I have realized I am probably never going to be a person who naturally closes cabinet doors. It's just fact. Okay. That's why it's on my daily list so that I will purposefully at some point go close them, go close all 16 that are open or however many I have in my kitchen. That purposefulness, it's like we've talked about before, 5 minutes of focus is more powerful than just wishing I did things differently. Okay. Now, the reality is during a 5-minute pickup, if part of that is closing all the cabinet doors, it has a huge visual impact, right? And the more often I do that, the more likely, not guaranteed, the more likely I am to actually remember to close a cabinet door. It still rarely happens, but it's more likely because I've been doing that consistently. And I'm a little more aware because every time it's time for a 5-minute pickup, I have to go close 16 doors, whatever. So, excuse me. For your son, what I would recommend is a focused time. So it's like, that's one of his jobs in the 5-minute pickup, or that's his specific job. You know, everybody, we help clear the table and it's his job to go close all the cabinet doors if he's, you know, or whatever you decide, but especially like if he's the one who constantly leaves them open. But I am here to advocate for the cabinet door lever openers and to let you know that it is not personal and it is not intentional. We don't do it on purpose, but that doesn't mean we don't come up with a way to help, you know, to fight against this natural tendency, but it is not on purpose. That was one of the things my husband at one point was finally like, oh, so you don't do that on purpose. Okay. He's finally realized that. Do I have a list of general things a normal household would need, aka kitchen, bathroom, etc.? I do not. I always wanted something like that. And then I would look at it and I would think, well, I'm not normal anyway. So it's different for me. I actually need this, 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 and this, or you know, the thing that helped me more than anything was the container concept, because that helped me let things go. Because I was like, I don't have to do math. If I let myself do math, I spin out. So instead I say, okay, this is the cabinet that I have for dishes. So I'm going to put my favorite dishes in there first, and whatever doesn't fit has to go. And generally, I'm just fine doing that. Okay. But if I had, like at our old house, I'm trying to think. At our new house, we have one cabinet over here that has the plates and then coffee cups and then like soup bowls, and then one over here that has our glasses in it. And it's like, I put my favorite things in first, and then I let that cabinet be the decision maker for me. Now, the other thing on kitchen stuff is that it helped me a lot once I got my like dishes under control. And then I actually had a much better idea of what I really had and what, you know, what I used, what I liked the most. But yeah, even like for bathroom stuff, whatever, like how much do we need? I can only have how much will fit, because if I have more than that, my space, there's no hope of my house being under control. Right. And so instead of saying, because the problem is if I said, I need, you know, this many packages of toilet paper, but then you live in a house with one teeny tiny bathroom that does not have any room for toilet paper, then you feel like, okay, well, there's no hope of my space ever being under control because I'm supposed to have this much toilet paper. And then this is all the room that I have. So instead you just go with the room that you personally have. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, this is good. As an accountant, one thing I tell myself is that some things have fully depreciated. They no longer have value, so get rid of them. Yeah, this is truth. Like, especially when you're dealing with a pile or, you know, things that have been shoved and stuck into a space and you don't have an awareness of how long they've been there. The more you declutter, the more you realize, oh, I thought I was keeping this because it was valuable. And while I was keeping it, it got crushed, or dented or damaged, and now it is not valuable anymore. So it's like, it would have been better for me to go ahead and get rid of it, have this space be under control, and put value in my space. Yeah, I'm going on. Anyway, that is what this week's podcast that's coming out on Thursday. Just go search A Slob Comes Clean wherever you get podcasts. But this week's podcast specifically talks about that valuing space over stuff and getting to that point. Like, how do you get there? Thank you. Okay. How do I get my daughter to let go of clothes? She is 15 and never wants to let go of older clothes if they still fit. It's hard for her to keep up with laundry. Okay. Container concept. I know I'm saying that like it's easy. It's not going to be easy. I have a 16-year-old daughter. I get it. Okay. But letting the space be the thing. And then the beauty of the container concept, especially when you're working with someone else, see how well all this works for coaching, right? Okay. But especially when you're working with someone else, the beauty of it is the answer is always yes. Okay. Always yes. Not like you can't be tough and, lay down the law. I mean, you're the mom, whatever. I'm just saying that's what's beautiful about using this process and helping someone implement the container concept. So we have closet space and drawer space. What is on my hand? We have closet space, drawer space. Those are the spaces for clothes. So we're going to put our favorite ones in there first. And then when they're full, that is the limit. And you've already put your favorite ones in there first, and there's just no room. I'm sorry. I wish there was more room. There isn't. But if she cannot let go of other stuff, then it becomes a question of, okay, well, if you're going to keep more clothes than will fit in this space, then we have to, get rid of this decorative area over here and take out your, other keepsakes and things so that we can fit more clothes in there. And generally the idea would be, oh, I don't want to get rid of that. Okay, well, something has to go because things have to have a place to be. Yeah. But I also know that the laundry thing can be overwhelming because I know for me, getting rid of clothes made laundry so much easier. Doing laundry made decluttering clothes so much easier. So it goes all together. But I don't know that there's an easy answer for that age. There's no easy answers for anything with teenagers, right? Okay, because they're their own people and they're learning and they're figuring it out. And ultimately, they're going to have to figure it out on their own anyway, because they'll be out on their own. Okay. I want to get rid of my doors, but I also want to hide my unorganized pantry items. I mean, do what you want to do. My worst nightmare is to get rid of cabinet doors. I mean, really, it is. I'm just like, people do that and it looks amazing. And my husband will joke about how we should get rid of ours because they're always open anyway. And I'm like, no. They need to be able to be closed to hide things. I don't know. I don't see how people do it. But maybe it would motivate you to, keep it nice and neat. But for me, it wouldn't work. Okay. Let's see. I declutter, and a physically challenged person sets things on the table or kitchen counter. I take them upstairs to her room and tell her, oh, I thought you wanted me to take it to your room. Help. So I'm guessing that doesn't go over well. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, living with other people is an adventure, right? Like, I mean, finding a way, maybe if that's a place where something gets set all the time, making that the actual spot for this to be, creating a container. If this is something where, I know the nester, she's really big on each room having a home base that's kind of a catching spot for little bitty things that are supposed to be in that room. That might be something, like give it a space, give it a cute little container or something where it's like, well, this is where your stuff is. And so then you can at least just put things in that space for the person. Let's see. I struggle so much just to get started. ADHD with a lot of executive dysfunction. It feels like my life, home, family will never leave this chaotic space. I totally understand what you're going through. I would encourage you, if you haven't, and you may have, read How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind, or listen to it. like listen to the audiobook. It's not my favorite of my audiobooks because they didn't have somebody there to tell me what to do and not do. And so there's some sounds in it. It makes me crazy. Anyway, I didn't actually go, but I learned a lot between that one and my second book. Anyway, because my podcast microphone does not pick up every little thing like the fancy audiobook microphone did. And if they just would have told me, it would have been so much better, but they didn't. Anyway, here we go. So you are frustrated getting started. Two things. The place to get started is the most visible space in your home. Okay, that just, it's like you got to have a place to start anyway. So start in the most visible space because you got to pick a space, right? Next, remember that just decluttering is your goal. Throw organizing out the window. Don't even think about organizing right now. Just declutter because there's nothing to do before you start decluttering. You can just start getting stuff out of your house. Follow the 5-step process. If you go to, where is it? Oh no, it's under banners. If you go to, I finally put this into a thing, aslobcomesclean.com/5, that will, you can sign up for my newsletter and get a printable of the 5-step process, which I am told at least once a week is extremely, it works extremely well for those with ADHD. So that's my advice because I know it's hard to get started. I know it really is. Okay, comments, going back to that, see if there's a couple more. We're at 12:51, so I am going to how to help kids and husbands see individual items when doing a 5-minute pickup as opposed to having to tell them every single item to pick up. I'm not sure where you are in this process, if it is something you've been doing for a really long time, but remember that as the manager, it might be a week, 2 weeks, a month or so of you spending that 5-minute directing. I mean, spending that 5 minutes pointing things out, reminding them, you know, the easy homes or where would you look for this first, that kind of thing. It's not easy. Like a 5-minute pickup, once they truly understand that you mean business and that you're not going to give up because they're difficult, because that's a reality, right? When you have kids, is they're like, if I'm just really difficult about this, mom will give up because, you know, it's worked before on other things, right? So, you know, with 5-minute pickups, it's like, just be consistent, really do mean 5 minutes. Don't try to get 5 minutes of worth of what you think should be done in 5 minutes and really takes 30 minutes. 5 minutes actual time directing them. And then over time, once everybody finally starts to get what it is that we're doing here, and she really does mean business, she's not going to forget about this new kick that she's on for 5-minute pickups, then over time, they're amazing. Like, it's amazing what a family can do, but it's not fun in the beginning, like at all. It's like kind of the worst in the beginning, but it's so worth it. When I listened to Decluttering the Speed of Life, I learned that we are so much meant to meet. I'm so blessed by coming across you and getting help. I'm so excited. And you're slowly getting there. Oh my word. If you're getting there, you're just getting better and better, right? That's so exciting. Here we go. Thank you so much for the head explosion rule. It has helped me not lose my mind. Before I would worry, go back and forth, think about it for days, months, years. Now I know to get rid of it. No single item is worth your head exploding. So if it makes me feel like my head is going to explode because I'm like, well, what about, I just get rid of it. But if you can't get rid of it, skip it. Move to the next thing. Don't let one item stop the decluttering process. What do you do when your space doesn't need a 5-minute pickup? Well, do a dance. Be excited. I mean, if it's picked up in 1 minute, well, that just is a perk, right? Like, that's just amazing. So just be happy, be excited. Now, what I will say is if, you know, for some people, they might be like, well, I haven't moved anything today. And so there's nothing, I haven't used anything, or I've been out of town. It doesn't really need a 5-minute pickup. And yet I have this idea. You can use those 5 minutes to declutter. like, because we use the decluttering without making a bigger mess process, it's progress and only progress. So you can stop at any time. You could say, okay, I'm going to open up a cabinet and spend this 5 minutes throwing away trash, seeing if there's, work through that decluttering process just for those 5 minutes. And then you're going to make even, deeper progress in the rest of your house. Okay. I think I'm going to stop there. Oh, it's 12:55. So thanks for joining me. This has been fun. And I will be here next week. So make sure you go to askdanakWhite.com, right? I'm looking for my little thing. If you want to ask a question that might be answered on a future live, you can go to askdanakWhite.com. And don't forget, if you are interested in possibly, maybe, being a decluttering coach someday using my strategies, go to aslobcomesclean.com/certification. And that is where I will have my email sign up for that. So that, I'm going to put it out there otherwise, but that list will be sure to get an email about that. So it's been fun. I will talk to y'all later.